you know, maybe the players do amp up a bit for this one.
There's a lot of pressure. I mean, you know, a lot of the time when we're in deep runs in Grand Prix, you know, you'll see a player that you're more familiar with, someone on Team Channel Fireball, someone on the Pantheon, face-to-face games, whatever. You know, there are a lot of accomplished Magic players here in this tournament. You can see behind Andrew Calderon, you got Christian Calcano, I believe. He's playing against, his name is escaping right now. He's on MTG Madness. He came here with Patrick Diekman. But, you know, you've got two players who are obviously very well accomplished around you that, you know, might not get any fear or shakes from a feature match. You know, they've been there before. They'll be there again. For Calderon and Atken, you know, this is really a new experience for both of these players.
Yeah, and a tournament this big really lets a new player rise to the scene. We saw with Grand Prix Vegas, Neil Oliver winning Grand Prix Vegas, now competing for the Rookie of the Year title. Like, there's no coincidence there. There are a lot of names at X1, to be fair. Like, this is not going to be a top 8 of people you haven't heard of. I was watching the tables. It's strong players. Modern's a tough enough format that's going to happen. But, I mean, it's a 12-0 run. Like, it's a really deep run at a Grand Prix, and you have to think that these players are pretty good.
Valentin Mackel is the player who's playing against Christian Calcano. I do apologize to him. This isn't his first time in the States either. He came for Albuquerque and top 8 there with Mono Blue Devotion. But both of these players are taking a look at their opening hands. Round number 13 of 15 here in Richmond will be underway in just a moment. The winner of this match will be playing in the next Pro Tour and a very high likelihood of playing in the top 8. As Andrew Calderon is going to keep his hand, this is a Misty Rainforest. We'll see what he's going to search out. We might see a little search for tomorrow action here as a breeding pool is going to come into play untapped.
Yeah, I mean, and Search for Tomorrow is great here. Obviously, it's always good on turn 1 in the deck. However, I think particularly in this matchup, what he wants is ramp spells and cryptics. He doesn't want to draw his control cards.
So the suspend will occur on the ramp spell. William's going to play an island. No Aether Vial here for him. He's just going to pass the turn back. So Calderon will tick that down to 1. He's going to play a mountain and just pass the turn back.
Things are going well for Calderon. His opponent has no Aether Vial. He's on the play. He has a ramp spell. This is all good for him. And he actually has a Snapcaster, which he can use to Snapcast that Search for Tomorrow on turn 5. It seems a little slow, but actually is probably what he wants to be doing.
Here's an island. Follow-up play is going to be a Master of the Pearl Trident. Now, Island Walk actually not going to play a huge role in this match. You see a Lightning Bolt immediately take care of that Master. Now, I'm actually going to ask you a question about that as Calderon does search for the land. Lightning Bolt in this particular deck is a full turn off of Escape Shift.
Yeah, so he could have... Yeah, you're right. Because Williams not going to take himself down to 18. He's not going to do that work for Calderon. Yep. I mean, I think getting value off Lightning Bolt it's probably even better to kill a Merfolk with it. Merfolk does this critical mass thing where it's making pack rats, right? So each time you kill one, it's a lot of damage down the road you're saving. And if I'm Calderon, I'm pretty happy to actually get to kill a Merfolk.
Lord of Atlantis being placed on the stack here. Calderon does have a copy of Cryptic Command, also does have a copy of Remand that he can use here. Says that's fine, that's going to resolve. This is an Aether Vial.
Well, I don't even think he really needs to counter the Lord. I think he can bounce draw, and that's almost the same thing. Williams not really going to run out of cards here.
So if Calderon does want to do the Cryptic Command play here that you do suggest, he had a Remand that he could have used on the Lord of Atlantis. He opted not to.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised he didn't. He's going to counter draw on the Aether Vial.
A little surprised by that.
Well, if he has a sweeper of some sort, William having to pay for all those spells is pretty good for Calderon. That's what I'm a little surprised too. I feel like it's not a turn 1 Aether Vial, so it's not as strong.
Helmar Depths is going to take a look at a couple cards here. Among them, there is Escape Shift there. And you see Calderon has been holding on to the Valakut in his hand now. He's playing against a deck that does have Spreading Seas in it.
Right.
So by playing Valakut, that's probably a little bit dangerous, right?
Yeah, I mean, he only has 2. In this version, they only play 2 Valakuts, and he's going to need to get 2 Valakuts and 6 other lands. So he wants land 8 to be that Valakut, so he can play it, and then immediately Escape Shift the other 7 lands, leaving that in play. If it gets Spreading Seized, his ability to do 36 is turned off. 8 lands could be 21 damage, but even then, there's some ifs in the equation. Did he draw too many mountains?
Phantasmal Image is going to be placed on to the stack here. Obviously, the goal is to copy the old Lord of Atlantis.
Yeah, he's got a Cryptic Command, and as much as you'd want to be fancy here, I think the Escape Shift player just kind of is going to snap counterspell everything.
Is it time for Spreading Seas? It is.
Yeah, it's on his red source. That's just fine.
No, actually, it's going to be on his green source.
Green source.
Yeah,
that's not fine.
Yeah. So that means the inability to ramp now, and the play that you actually mentioned was, Snapcaster maging the Search for Tomorrow, and that plays out the window.
Yeah, he even left a Sakura Tribelder on top of his deck, so that Spreading Seas is really big.
Now, the Island Walk, again, is not going to play a huge role in this matchup for the Lords because creatures aren't going to get in the way. Sometimes you will slide by a Snapcaster Mage or a Sakura Tribelder, but that's not going to play a big role. You're more concerned about just pack ratting up, which is what Atken's doing here.
So Andrew had to commit to a line at the beginning of this game. So he chose a line of countering and removing everything. The other thing he could have done this game is he could have Searched for Tomorrow. He could have let William resolve things. He could have Snapcast a Search for Tomorrow, and then he could have used the Cryptics to tap draw and try to tap draw his way to 8 lands. As it is right now, this is a dangerous situation for Calderon. He played the Valakut, and it is getting targeted by Spreading Seas.
So now that is an island.
Yeah, it's still fine for now. He can go Scapeshift 8 lands into a Valakut and 7 mountains.
Okay.
But remember, there's only, I believe, 10 mountains in his deck. So if one's in play, if he draws too many of them, then he's going to start to lose his ability to win the game.
Calderon does draw 4.
Huge draw. He gets to play again.
Yeah. I'm probably going to see him drop down to Sakura Tribelder. We'll see here in a moment. And there is the Tribelder, so passing the turn back.
Yeah, he does have Snapcaster. He has basically a lot of Remands in his hand. I think he has Remand, Tribelder, and Snapcaster. Yeah.
Now there is a Lord of Atlantis. So that's going to turn the other Lord into a 3/3. And now both Lords are going to be able to slide under the water here. But Remand is going to slow that down.
Yeah. And he draws Steam Vents. So it's the land he needs, but remember, that's a second mountain he's drawn.
Now Mutavolt's going to get fired up. That, of course, does have Island Walk because it is a Lord. Now here's a Snapcaster Mage. And Snapcaster Mage can actually trade with the actual Lord of Atlantis, but he's going to go Lightning Bolt.
Yeah, this is great. Lightning Bolt, Lord of Atlantis, trade with Mutavault. He's kept the whole board clean.
Yeah. So now he's working. He still has to work his way out from underneath the Spreading Seas that has taken place on his Valakut, but he's doing a really nice job of it. So now this is going to be a copy of Pure Through Depths. Yeah. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 5. So let's see what he finds. It's an Electrolyze. And so now he shows the Electrolyze. Here comes the Tribelder.
Yeah.
We'll see what else happens. You're just going to play Force and pass the turn back. And so what's happened here is you see him tapping the Spreading Seas for mana along with the Halimar Depths. He's got the Valakut off to the side of the screen. That's what might look a little bit strange to you guys at home.
Yeah.
So
that is something that players do, is that, you just, because you're never going to get rid of the seas, you just move the land off to the side and treat Spreading Seas as though it is the land.
Yeah. Master of the Pearl Trident comes in. It's going to get electrolyzed.
Yeah, and by keeping the board clean here, Calderon has actually been able to turn on all these removal spells. Sometimes that's not possible. As you see here, Calderon has all the control right now.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly how he wants the game to go. It's really nice velocity. He's getting through his deck very, very quickly. As here's a Silvergill Adept, going to reveal a Lord of Atlantis. It's going to be Cryptic. And do you like the approach here of just counter, every creature is just getting killed? Do you like that approach?
Yeah, I like that. Rather than counter draw, so he's drawn too many mountains right now. At some point, I think he's going to have to counter bounce his Valakut that's under the Spreading Seas.
Okay.
Or he can just chip enough damage in with the Tribelder that it doesn't matter. But
now, there is one thing to keep in mind here, too. I believe he's used already 3 copies of Cryptic Command.
Yeah, he plays a full 4, and he plays 3 Snapcaster Mages. So he does have access to he can still get that Valakut out.
So he's still going to be okay.
Yeah,
it might take a little bit of work.
Yeah, he's going to have to work for it, but it should be fine.
I'm going to take a look at the graveyard here, Will Atken. See, there are, 3 Cryptics down there, a couple of other counter spells. He's probably taking a look to see what can be Snapcastered, what can't.
Yeah, and William's been choked on mana this whole game. He hasn't really been able to make 2 threats in a turn yet, and that's really getting to him. Calderon is at the ready with an Anger of the Gods.
Attention players in the
But
Super Sunday Series.
This is a Lord of Atlantis. Yeah, that's getting remanded. Yeah, and Calderon's approach this entire game has been the same, which is just every threat countered or remanded or something. Like, I'm not letting a single thing stick.
Yeah, and
this is going to attack here for 1.
Calderon is drawing far too many mountains at the moment. He has 2 more mountains in his hand, so there are only 6 left in his deck. He can't do a full scape shift anymore.
Okay, so I'm sure that you have been in this situation before. It doesn't happen a ton, but what do you do when you get in a situation like this? Like when you've drawn a bunch of mountains, like you're obviously your plan is scape shift, put a bunch of mountains. Like he's drawn too many.
You can start throwing burn spells at your opponent. Sometimes you can still scape shift for some number. It's just not 8, it's not 20 anymore. So you have to chip more damage in. It becomes more awkward with every land you draw.
Okay.
But the fact that they're playing a lot of incidental burn does help.
Okay. Aether Vial's going to come down here for Atken.
Yeah, and even though it's like a turn 9 Aether Vial or something, because Atken has been so limited on mana, this is will actually get pretty good value off this Aether Vial.
Yeah, normally when the game progresses this amount of length, it favors the scape shift player, and I'm not saying that it doesn't favor Calderon right now, but it still feels like William can actually get back into this.
And he draws another mountain for that turn. So he now has drawn 5 of his mountains. And this has got to be this is one of those frustrating situations when you're playing scape shift. Yeah, he's got 2 mountains in hand, 3 in play.
Yeah, you can see it on his face as he plays his team fence and passes the turn back. He just doesn't have a lot going on. It's just kind of a tri-builder versus the world right now.
Yeah, so once he gets 5 mountains in play, he can scape shift away his non-mountains into mountains, and he can do 3 for every mountain remaining in his deck, which is currently 5. And if he has both Valakutes in play, if he can get the one out from under the Spreading Seas, he does have an upper limit of 30 damage. But as long as that Valakute's under Spreading Seas, his scape shift only deals 15 at the moment.
Okay.
Which, that's enough right now. But if Calderon draws another mountain, then he's going to have to wait until he natural draws the Valakut. There's a bunch of really bad things. It becomes pretty awkward.
I think we're already in a pretty awkward spot.
I think it still wins. I think scape shift is still a winning card at this point.
Okay. An attack for 1. This looks like it's going to be a Vapor Snack. Not going to get much better use out of the card in this matchup.
I'd probably even put it back in my hand. If I'm not even going to sack it. Yeah, but it is gonna, right.
Yeah. Let's take 1. That's fine. What's the big deal anyway?
Things you don't see very often.
Yeah. Now here's a Peer Through Depths. You see a Remand, a Bolt, a Scape Shift, an Is It Charm, and a Snapcaster Mage. Take Scape Shift immediately.
All right, so I believe he can still Scape Shift for exactly 15.
Well, he's going to organize all of these lands, so it looks like he's going to be going for Scape Shift right now.
Yeah.
And he's going to cast it with confidence. So now, if you're William, you don't concede.
No, there's way too many mountains in play.
You do not concede. You make them go through it.
So he sacks 6 lands. Those are 2 Spreading Seas, so 2 of the cards that are under Spreading Seas.
Yep.
Or 3 that are under Spreading Seas. And he should have enough mountains. He has 1 Valakut left in his deck and 5 mountains.
2, 3, 4.
Is exactly 5 and a Valakut.
That's the Valakut. He's looking for the 5th mountain. That's a Flooded Strand.
So, okay. So that was 6. So that was 12 damage off 4 mountains that he could find, and he played 1 from his hand for the last one.
So he had 2 mountains in play. He scape shifts for a Flooded Grove, a Valakut, and 4 other mountains. So that'll be 4 triggers, which is 12 damage, and then he plays a mountain from his hand. That'll be the 5th one.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
He has to stop. He has to not play the mountains in his hand anymore.
Yes,
That's what happens.
yeah.
Yeah. He has to stop playing lands.
That's what he did, and that's why he wins game number 1. Andrew Calderon does win game number 1 with Scape Shift over William Atken playing Merfolk. We're going to go to the sideboards here. We're going to start with the Merfolk deck. Now, when we had Atken on camera last round, we saw that he had a lot of combo hate in his sideboard. But I don't know if the combo hate lines up great here. He's got an Echoing Truth of a Dalkin Shackles, a Hercules Recall, 2 Steel Sabotage, 2 Grafdigger's Cage, 2 Chalice of the Void, 3 Swan Songs, and 3 Spell Skites.
So this is why Scape Shift is a very good deck for the tournament, is because it's very hard to hate out. Sure, Swan Song is fine against Scape Shift. You'll probably hit something with it. And you probably even board it in. Spell Skite is okay, but not great.
Okay.
It makes the Valakut triggers deal 2 instead of 3, and so say if he had a Spell Skite in that situation, it would have been pretty hard for Calderon to deal 15. I'm not even, he would have had to get even more creative, but those are things you can board in, and I think you probably do board in, but that's about it. Like, a lot of these cards really aren't very good against Scape Shift.
Yeah, I mean, unsurprisingly, we're not going to see sideboard here or many sideboards over the course of this tournament that say, hey, I'm here to beat Scapeshift, Shadow of Doubts and Slaughter Games and type of effects like that. Like, you don't really find that sort of stuff here. As we move over to Calderon's side, you're going to see 4 Obstinate Bailout, 2 Volcanic Fallout, 2 Back to Nature, 2 Relic of Progenitus, a Teferi, a Boseiju, an Ancient Grudge, a Wormcoil Engine, and an Electrolyze. What do we like from that side against Merfolk?
Well, he's trying to just be the control deck again. So I don't think this is an Obstinate Baloth matchup. Once Merfolk gets going, it deals damage in huge numbers. You know, it's a pack rat, right? 1 4/4 is not really going to stop it. So possibly Volcanic Fallout can be good, but if he knows enough about Merfolk, he knows that like there aren't very many counter spells, and Fallout is not likely to hit. It might just be an Electrolyze, to be totally honest. There's nothing to me that screams that you have to board it in this matchup.
I mean, you do see both players taking a look here. And once they do finish sideboarding, we'll see what happens if they do change much. But I'm kind of with you. I don't think either player, is going to change a lot of cards here.
Yeah, overall, this is one of the matchups that Scapeshift really wants to play.
Yeah, I was going to say, that game 1 felt kind of dominating from Calderon's side.
Yeah, I mean, Calderon was fortunate that he had his removal spells on curve. If Atken gets on the board heavily enough, you know, once his guys become 4/4s, Calderon loses the ability to stop them.
Sure.
All his burn spells become bad. His cryptics are obviously still good, but that's when he has to change gears from being controlling to being fast. It's like he can be the control deck, but it's not always going to work.
And again, when we talk about Scapeshift, we see Andrew Calderon here up a game, and he's 12-0. Daryl Ayers, who I sat down with and did a deck tech with. You guys can find that on the Star City Games coverage page. That'll be uploaded for you guys over the course of the day. He's sitting at 11-1.
Yeah, Daryl actually took down Merfolk last round to move to 11-1.
Okay.
So both of these decks performing very well. And I mean, that one went to 3 and was actually a close 3 games.
Yeah. And he said that his loss this weekend was to Merfolk.
All right. So yeah, certainly a matchup I think that can go either way. But as a Scapeshift player, one I'm not upset with.
Yeah. I mean, if game 1 is any indication, things look pretty good here for Calderon. Atken has to, obviously get out of the gate a little bit faster. Maybe a timely swan song. Spreading Seas seemed like more of an annoyance than this card that's really going to win the game.
Yeah, Spreading Seas isn't great against Scapeshift, actually. It's good because sometimes you can hit their colors, you can color screw them. Like, if you can get all their green, it's pretty good. We saw that the Calderon was very fortunate to not get screwed on green mana. He drew a pretty timely forest that game. I think Calderon could have sequenced differently to not have given, he lost all his green mana. I don't think that had to happen.
Yeah.
But he was rescued there. And then once again, after that, the second and third Spreading Seas that Atken played didn't really do much.
Well, both players will continue shuffling here, and the game 2 will be underway shortly. But if you are just joining us, Cedric Phillips, Matthias Hunt, and Patrick Chapin bringing you Grand Prix Richmond. We appreciate you guys joining us over the course of this weekend. A lot of viewership from you guys on Twitch and wherever else you're watching, so we do appreciate here in the booth. A lot of players obviously came out for this one, 4,300. We had over 400 making it to day 2, but only one's going to be undefeated after this round.
Yeah, we have one undefeated player remaining. He'll be at 13-0. I believe he will be a lock for top 8. He'll certainly be a lock for Pro Tour Atlanta.
Yes, we know at least one qualification to Atlanta will be given out at the end of this match. You see Calderon taking a look at his hand. He's got an Izzet Charm, a Scapeshift, a couple of lands over there. He looks happy, and we're underway.
Yeah, he's boarded in Ancient Grudge, and that couldn't be better against Williams' Aether Vial start.
Stomping Ground going to come into play tapped. Calderon will stay at 20 as the Vial will go up to 1. We'll see what Atken does have this turn. He's just going to play an island and pass the turn back, kind of relying on Vial to maybe get the job done this game.
Calderon's going to have to turn 2 Grudge this. Once the Vial's sweet spot is 2 in the Merfolk deck, and I think you just have to blow it up immediately.
Yeah. And it looks like he may be doing this on his turn. He may be doing it on Atken's upkeep. Either way, a Grudge is on the stack, and it's targeting the Vial. A little scared, maybe, that no mana acceleration so hard here from Calderon?
Well, it depends. As it becomes more and more of a control deck, the acceleration becomes less important.
Atken with no plays on the other turns of the game. He has to be the aggressor in this matchup as Calderon's just going to play a Steam Fence and pass the turn back. If you're Calderon, you got to be thrilled that nothing has happened yet so far, as this is a copy of Thassa, God of the Sea, just a one-of here in Atken's deck.
Yeah. Thassa seems fine here. There's one concern on Calderon's side, which is that his last land is a Stomping Ground, and all 4 of his lands so far are mountains.
Yeah.
He only plays 10, and actually, those late-game mountains that he was hitting last game are pretty easy to play around, but having all your first land drops be mountains, that can be a serious problem for the deck. Like, he can play this mountain, but after that he needs, like, 4 you can play, but the 5th one you really can't. You have to save that. You have to make sure that the 5th one does damage with Valakut.
Stomping Ground coming to play untapped. So he's going to take 2. It looks like he's probably going to cast a Search for Tomorrow, I believe.
Yeah, I think he's boarded in Volcanic Fallout as well in this matchup.
Has one in his hand.
Yeah, he's furthering just like he's solidifying his role as a control deck.
A lot of people look at Scapeshift as a combo deck, but really it's just, as you mentioned, a control deck that happens to kill you with 1 card.
Yeah, exactly.
So Thassa, didn't expect to see this one today. It will be scrying.
Yeah, this certainly looks like a standard deck at the moment.
Taking a look at an island. Yeah, taking a look at an island here. Going to leave it on top. So what do you have over there, Atken? Because you need to get something on the board. He's just going to pass the turn back yet again.
I mean, I'm curious because he scryed the island to the top, so he presumably wants this island.
Yeah.
But all right, Sakura Tribe Builder for Calderon. He's also boarded in Obstinate Baloth, it looks like.
Spreading Sea is the card that Atken is looking at now. He's going to put that one on the bottom.
Yeah, I don't know what Atken is drawing toward. He's got a Spell Pierce, so it looks like he's trying to set up lots of counter magic and the mana to play it.
Yeah, the problem is, I mean, obviously, again, you're a veteran of this deck. If you're playing against a deck that just has a counter wall, that doesn't really scare you, right?
No, this is great. If you give him Scapeshift enough time, like, they win with land drops. It's this isn't, I would want to be putting pressure on.
Yeah, and now he's actually going to spin things around because he's going to play an Obstinate Baloth, and now this is going to force Atken to actually react. And so now Calderon, oddly enough, is coming from 2 different angles, 1 with the Baloth and 2 with the inevitability of Scapeshift.
Yeah, Baloth does this a lot in the deck, actually. And you'll see it has a lot of strength right here.
Lord of Atlantis going to come down here, going to start to try to provide a little bit of devotion, but I can't imagine that that's going to live very long.
Yeah, Calderon has plenty of answers. He has an Izzet Charm in hand, and he's confident enough in his board state that he's not even Izzet Charming right now, which I agree with. I like that a lot.
Here's an attack for 4 from the Baloth, so now that's going to actually put Atken underneath the sweet spot of 18 life, making it so that 1 less land is necessary for the Scapeshift to get the job done.
And I'm not sure what this hand, like, I don't know. I don't really understand what Atken's game plan is here. Like, his hand was very slow.
I mean, his hand was obviously quite reactive, but as you mentioned, being reactive against this deck is, you gotta pressure and be aggressive against this deck. As he's playing Captain of Souls, going to name Merfolk and cast Master of Waves.
I mean, they win with land drops.
Yeah.
So,
it could very simply be unfamiliarity with the matchup.
That could definitely be Master of Waves here. The creatures it makes not as relevant in matchup. Interestingly enough, protection from red is pretty good against Scapeshift. Not good against Obstinate Baloth, but it's pretty powerful here.
Volcanic Fallout is going to happen. Can't be countered, of course. It's going to clean up a whole bunch of stuff. Again, Master of Waves having protection from red means that that's not going to die, but just about everything else will.
Yeah, this card, a throwback here, was used to great effect to hurt fairies back in the day. It was kind of tailor-made to beat that deck. And still good here. It's good against Merfolk.
An attack here from 4 from the Baloth yet again. It's going to put Atken down to 10. You see take a look at the scry yet again. But yeah, I'm kind of with you. This is the issue with trying to be too reactive against this deck, because they have creatures to sideboard into. It's not a ton. I mean, he's got 4 copies of Obstinate Baloth. Then he's also got a Teferi and a Wormcoil Engine. We saw Ayers during his deck tech. He had access to a Wormcoil Engine as well as an Inferno Titan. So
yeah, having a couple large monsters is pretty standard in Scapeshift and pretty strong in matchups. I mean, you look at Calderon's hand, and it's like, it just looks impossible to be able to win here. You see Snapcaster Mage, Cryptic Command, Anger of the Gods, Izzet Charm, and Scapeshift all in his hand. There's so much permission that Atken's going to have to fight through, and all Calderon needs to win is 2 more lands.
Yeah.
Or actually, 1 more land.
1, 2, 3. Yeah, it only takes 1 more.
He needs a land. If he draws a mountain, he's going to have to get 2.
Yep. He's going to flashback Volcanic Fallout, going to clear all of this stuff up. You saw Snapcaster Mage trade with Master of Waves, so back to square 1 here. And here's an attack for 4 yet again.
I mean, Calderon doesn't even need the Scapeshift to win.
Yeah, that's honestly what it feels like right now.
He's going to win with a 4/4 for 4.
Yeah. There is a Misty Rainforest. This is an attempt, I believe, at Scapeshift for the W. And I think that William has a Swan Song, but a Swan Song is not great right now, as this is a Spell Pierce.
I mean, Yeah, you can swan song it. That's fine. You're gonna die to the 2/2
Yeah,
flyer.
to the 2/2 bird.
Like that's fine.
Calderon immediately puts the swan in, and even though Escape Shift's game-winning Escape Shift is countered, it doesn't actually end up mattering this much as Atken's going to put the top card to the bottom. You see there's a Mutavault there in the grip.
Yeah, I think there's some unfamiliarity with this matchup that has come to hurt Atken. Merfolk can play a decent tempo game, but that's not, I mean, even in a tempo game, you need a threat. It can play a tempo game, but it can't play a control game.
One thing, too, is when you're playing Escape Shift, you don't want them to have all the options and dictate how the game goes. You want to pressure them so much that, they have to draw the right sequence of cards to beat you.
Yeah, tempo is actually a great strategy against Escape Shift, for example.
Yeah.
But control is not a good one.
And Calderon right now, again, he's looking at it. I mean, again, take a look at his hand. He's got an Anger of the Gods. He's got an Izzy Charm. He gets to dictate how this game goes. Yeah. It's all on him, on how things go here.
Yeah, it's like the thing you don't want to be doing is sitting back with a group of counter spells against Escape Shift.
Yeah.
They will be very good against that.
They will beat you on that front for multiple reasons, as you see double Mutavault go active here. Cryptic Command says before you block.
He's going to bounce the Mutavault.
Again, yeah, he could do that, or he could just tap everything too. Again, he is the one with all the decisions here for Calderon.
And it's another Swan who's giving him more flyers. At this point, Calderon, I think it's like, sure, yeah, that's fine. I'll take my flyer.
Yeah, when you get beaten down by the bird, it's a rough way to go out.
Yeah, now there's a pair of swans. Birds, as you will.
Yeah, Mutavaults are going to double block. They'll trade with the Baloth. I think Baloth has gotten its value this game.
I mean,
one would say.
Yeah, remember those were 3/3s thanks to Master of Waves, so only one of the Mutavaults dies. Yeah, I mean, William's at 2. There's 2 flyers. He's going to die to these birds.
Isn't it ironic?
Well, the Baloth did 12, 2 Fallouts did 4, and now a bird did 2.
Yeah. You see, Atken's taking a look at the top card of his deck here, trying to figure out if there's a way for him to climb out from underneath these 2 Swan tokens. Also, Calderon does have another copy of Escape Shift in his hand, just in case something goes horribly, horribly wrong.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, he could also just deal a bunch of Escape Shift damage.
Yeah.
I mean, all he has to do is find Lightning Bolt.
It must warm your heart to see Escape Shift dominating.
I like Escape Shift. This deck's great.
Should have played it at the Pro Tour.
I was okay with it. Yeah, it would have been good.
See an attack here with Mutavault's going to come into the red zone. That's a 3/3. Master of Waves being a 2/1.
There was a lot of
actually going to be a
twin
3-power
there,
creature
too.
because of Master. So it's an attack here for 6. Going to put Calderon down potentially to 10. Past the turn back. Calderon's going to draw. He's going to attack in the air, and that is going to do it. Andrew Calderon has just qualified for the next Pro Tour, among many other things. 13-0 here with Escape Shift.
So we are down finally after all but 2 of the rounds of the tournament to our last undefeated player.